Amazing revelation, billionaires ignored calls from pregnant wife hidden message their baby's. Jake Larson was a titan in Silicon Valley, revered for his relentless ambition, yet hollowed by the very success he wielded. Each day, his life revolved around charting the future at his startup, where groundbreaking innovations danced tantalizingly out of reach. Texts beeped incessantly, meetings loomed like dark clouds. Yet, through it all, a single name resonated through his mind: Emily. Unbeknownst to him, she desperately clung to hope and longing, her voice trembling behind unanswered calls. Those messages held emotional depth that he brushed aside as mere distractions. He was building a legacy. But the mundane chaos of his life began to crack and splinter when the sun dipped below the horizon, draping their home in twilight as if magnifying Emily's isolation. The walls, once filled with laughter, now echoed with her silent cries for connection. "Jake," she whispered into her phone during one late-night voicemail. "I'm scared, we're about to become parents, and I don't know how to do this alone." It was a raw moment, devoid of the gloss of his tech world, yet she felt unheard, as if her voice were swallowed by the ambitions that had ensnared him. Every time she dialed his number, her heart raced, anticipation mixed with anxiety. Her thoughts spun with images of sleepless nights, diaper changes, and fragile coups. What kind of family would they build if Jake continued to chase ephemeral dreams? Each cycle of voicemail revealed deeper insecurities. What legacy is worth it if I live in the shadows? She pondered aloud, exposing her vulnerability through tremors in her voice that Jake never got to hear. Today was no different. As Jake barreled through back-to-back meetings, the pressure swirled, expectations tightening around him. His innovation promised to revolutionize human interaction, yet inside, an unsettling heaviness grew. Pending deadlines loomed larger than his wife's pregnant belly waiting for him at home. There was still a chance to save his reputation from the naysayers. But then, amid the chaos, his phone buzzed with another voicemail from Emily. He pressed play on a message that, for a moment, shattered his relentless focus. Her voice, tinged with anguish, challenged him. "You're dreaming so big, Jake, but what about us? What kind of future are you fighting for if I'm not next to you? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." As her words ricocheted in his mind, anxiety gripped him like a vice. The breakthrough that had felt so secure was now shadowed by a critical tech failure, rattling his confidence. Rivals honed in with industry gossip. The ground beneath his feet felt increasingly shaky, mirroring the tension brewing at home. Alone in his sleek office, the sterile environment amplified Emily's unvoiced concerns, her cries for connection haunting him like a phantom. What was he crafting? A fortune built on neglect or a family with roots deep in love? Caught in this whirlwind, Jake grappled with a choice punctuated by internal screams: pursue the dream of legacy and wealth or face the disarray of his marriage. Each moment, the impending arrival of their child loomed, ripping him between ambition and familial duty. The awareness pulled him in two directions, leaving him breathless. Another buzz, another voicemail from Emily, each beep screaming urgency as self-doubt intensified. Would he finally answer, or would he let this dream slip through his fingers, along with the love he failed to nurture? The weight of it pressed down, leaving a storm of emotions swirling, unresolved, just waiting to crash. The morning light filtered through the blinds, casting lines of brightness across Jake's office, but instead of clarity, it illuminated the chaos within him. The tension he'd felt the previous day hung heavier, pressing him into his chair as he scrolled absently through emails. Each notification chimed like a mocking reminder of the life he had forsaken. He zoomed in on a stale corporate proposal and realized it no longer held his interest. Shoulders slumping, he pushed the screen away, his mind drifting back to Emily. With each passing moment, her voice reverberated in his thoughts. What kind of future are you fighting for if I'm not next to you? It prodded him mercilessly, awakening an uncomfortable truth. The larger the star he aimed to become in the tech universe, the smaller his world felt at home. Could he truly fulfill his ambitions at the prospect of becoming a father if it meant leaving his wife in emotional isolation? Jake took a deep breath and ran a hand over his face, surrendering to the magnifying reflection of familial dread. What was he doing? Were these relentless late nights and countless hours in the office worth it? He needed to confront what lay at the heart of this dilemma. The truth precipitated a confrontation within himself, a fundamental reshaping of his core values. Success had always equated to hours grinding against adversity, but now it seemed like a hollow metric. Fueled by a newfound determination, he picked up his phone, fingers hovering over Emily's number. But hesitation gripped him. What should he say? I'm sorry. Would mere apology suffice? What would she think of a husband who, until now, prioritized his ambition over their future? His decision crystallized in a triumphant moment of clarity. He needed to reconnect not just for Emily, but also for himself. Placing the phone back on the desk, Jake formulated a plan. He would take decisive action to shift the narrative of his life. A tangible goal dawned on him: he would use his tech skills to enhance his role as a husband and soon-to-be father. A series of video calls could help bridge the gap between them, shared moments of laughter and joy that could replace the silence that had grown too familiar. Why not turn his experiences into building a project that blended work and family? A personal app that could help parents document memories during their children's early years could be that tether, capturing connections through technology that grew rather than detracted from their lives. But standing at this crossroads prompted another emotional question. Would this revelation make amends for his negligence, or was it simply another attempt to disguise his failure? Fear of being exposed shadowed his determination, yet he pressed forward. With a sense of urgency, Jake sent Emily a message. He knew he needed to meet her face to face, to genuinely seek her thoughts on his new vision, and together explore how to weave their lives back into the narrative. Confession filled him. He would bear his vulnerabilities openly, reveal his missteps, and earn her trust anew. As the evening unfolded, Jake stood at the precipice of transformation while contemplating the impending change looming within his role as a husband and father. Just as he prepared to head home and confront the past, unexpected news struck. His rival's venture had garnered a massive investment while his project sleekly unraveled without promising leads. Would he manage to shift the tides in his favor, or would the choice to foster family ultimately unravel his hybrid ambitions? Armed with determination and anxiety, Jake stepped out of the office, preparing for the confrontation he needed but dreaded. The moment of truth loomed. Would he meet Emily and find the reunion transformative, or would he discover that bridging this rift was more challenging than he dared to assume? The car ride home felt interminable, each stoplight a reminder of his mounting anxiety. Jake clenched the steering wheel, flickers of doubt darting through his mind like errant fireflies in the dark. What if Emily had grown tired of waiting? What if she no longer believed in the man he'd promised to be? He recalled the stark lines of her face as she had walked away, disappointment etched into her features. Compounding his anxiety, the burgeoning investment his competitor had secured loomed over him like a dark cloud, threatening to eclipse his own ambitions. He had to find balance, but uncertainty lingered. Pulling into the driveway, Jake took a moment to steady his breathing before stepping out of the car. The world felt oddly quiet, every rustle from the trees outside whispering fragmented memories of the life they once shared. As he approached the front door, thoughts of what he might say danced in his mind. Opening the door felt like stepping onto a precarious ledge, ready to either leap forward or fall into the abyss. Inside, the house was dimly lit, shadows pooling in the corners like remnants of lost time. He heard the gentle hum of the refrigerator, the low ticking of the clock, each sound amplifying the growing sense of dread. His heart raced as he moved further in, aware that every step was weighted with potential consequence. In the living room, Emily sat curled on the couch, a book resting in her lap, its pages forgotten. Her eyes, dark yet vivid, swung toward him, and there was a tentative spark of hope intermingled with a flicker of guardedness. The emotional distance between them felt tangible, like a wall built of past grievances and unfulfilled promises. "Jake," she said softly, the single word encapsulating a mixture of longing and hesitation. "Hey," he managed, his voice cracking slightly. Instinctively, he took a seat across from her, wanting to bridge the space, yet remaining acutely aware of the chasm their estrangement had carved. He searched for the right words, willing himself to articulate the turmoil inside. "I've been thinking a lot about us, about everything. I know I haven't been present, and I'm sorry for that. I let ambition cloud my priorities." He watched as Emily's eyes narrowed slightly, defensive yet inviting. "Jake, you've always chased the next big thing. I don't want to be a casualty in that pursuit." Her words pierced him. There was an undeniable truth in her pain, a reminder of the sacrifices she had made while he lost himself in an endless chase for success. "I don't want that either," he responded, his tone steadily gaining conviction. "I've realized that I can't grow professionally if I lose what truly matters: our family. I want to create something that brings us together, not pushes us apart. I want to build an app for new parents, a platform that allows families to share their experiences, document milestones. It's important to me that we create memories together." Emily's gaze flickered, caught between skepticism and curiosity. "Is this about your business or about reconnecting with me?" A twinge of harsh honesty gripped him. He had to face this head-on. "It's both. I want you to be part of this, and I want to help us find our way back to each other." The seconds slid by as Emily processed his words. It was a moment suspended in time, laden with promise but shadowed by doubt. Then, Jake heard his phone vibrate in his pocket, jarring the delicate balance of silence. He hesitated, glancing at the screen. It was a message from his business partner, detailing an urgent development that could reshape their fortunes yet again. But in this moment, as he looked at Emily, her beauty, her strength, he questioned if success in the corporate arena meant anything at all without the warmth of her presence knotted against him. "Emily, I need to know if you'll join me in this, or are we too far gone?" He felt his heart jump with vulnerability, the raw nerve of uncertainty exposed. But before she could respond, the phone buzzed again, a reminder of the conflicting lives that lay ahead. Jake's resolve quaked momentarily as he braced for her answer, his future teetering ever so precariously. Would they unite in this journey, or would this pivotal moment define their estrangement? The silence hung heavily in the room, almost palpable, as Jake awaited Emily's response. Her eyes bore an almost weighty intensity, and he felt the pulse of his heart racing, echoing the anxiety that had gripped him since that morning. What if she hesitated? What if he had miscalculated entirely? "Jake," she began, each syllable striking a tension-filled chord, "I appreciate your honesty. But, this feels like a complication. It's not just about business for me. I spent years supporting you through those late nights and endless pitches. Now, when I need you, I find you're distracted again." Her words knotted in the pit of his stomach. He realized he had positioned himself as a provider, but had neglected the emotional investment that came with being a partner. Too often, he had mistaken his drive for ambition as proof of love. "I know," he admitted, the admission felt jagged on his tongue. "But what if this is the opportunity for us to work through it together? I can't change the past, but I'm trying to create a future where both my personal life and my career coexist. This could be a chance for us to build something meaningful." Emily's gaze softened slightly. "And what if it doesn't turn out the way you envision? What if it ends up another distraction that pulls our focus away from what we really need?" It was a fair question, one that clawed at his convictions. "Everything I've ever chased was to secure our life, to provide for you. If we can combine my passion with our connection, maybe we can design an app that highlights family milestones, but the true milestone here is us reconnecting. It's important." The tension in the air shifted, her lamp casting a dim warmth that slowly enveloped them both. Jake felt a flicker of hope igniting within him. He had stepped outside his own pursuits and now saw them woven into a tapestry that included Emily, a tapestry that had become frayed with neglect but could be rewoven. "All right," she said, her shoulders relaxing fractionally, "but this is a partnership in every sense. I won't just be another contributor. If we're doing this, I need your full commitment." "Absolutely," he assured her, fortified by her willingness. "Let us outline it, brainstorm ideas, and I want your input on everything. Together." For the first time in weeks, a sense of purpose blossomed in his chest. Emily was allowing a dim ray of trust to seep through the cracks, and he felt the stirrings of a collaborative spirit taking form. Yet, as they delved into discussions, drafting plans and exploring ideas, Jake's phone continued to buzz in his pocket. With every vibration, it beckoned him back into the corporate world, reminding him of responsibilities that weighed heavily on his conscience. He stole glances at his phone, but a strange sense of purpose swept him along. He resolved to resist the pull and prioritize these moments with Emily. The conversation flowed, inspiring ideas that reignited a spark in both of them. Jake felt driven, alive. This was a chance to confront his professional identity while repairing the fissures within their relationship. Yet, just as the dialogue grew more animated, a thought plagued him. What would happen if their collaboration fell short? If his ambitions overshadowed their opportunity to restore intimacy? Or worse, what if he refused to phone back his partner, missing out on a life-altering investment? Jake's mind raced as the possibilities spiraled. A flicker of doubt tugged at his resolve, vexing his newfound enthusiasm. Was he truly capable of merging these paths successfully? He tried to shake off the unease, but the reminder never left his side. The urgency of his partner's texts nagged at him significantly, and as they unfolded their ideas, a decision loomed on the horizon. As they leaned towards a shared vision, a question echoed within: would he have the strength to prioritize his commitment to Emily over his mounting responsibilities at work? And before long, another message flashed on his phone, a new opportunity from his competitor, with implications for both his business and personal life. The screen illuminated his face, its glow casting shadows on a future filled with perilous choices. The crossroads lay ahead, and Jake knew he couldn't linger in this moment forever. It was time to confront what lay beyond the comfort of planning. But would he dare answer the call to the ambitions that had always threatened to pull him away, or would he find the courage to remain anchored in this life he longed to rebuild? With that, Jake's heart thudded with conviction and doubt, realizing that the moment for clarity was closing in yet again. Would he be the man Emily needed, or would he slide back into the fight he had sought to escape once and for all? Jake's brow furrowed as he stared at the screen, the message blaring with urgency. It wasn't just another text, it was a potential pivot in his career, and it clawed at his resolve like nothing else. But on the other hand, sitting before him was an opportunity to reshape his future with Emily, one that could kindle their relationship and offer him a chance at redemption. "Jake?" Emily's voice sliced through his thoughts, her gentle insistence laced with concern. "You okay?" He cleared his throat, forcing his eyes away from the glowing screen. "Yeah, I'm fine. Just thinking." "About what?" Her tone was careful, as if balancing on the edge of a fragile truce. "About us, this project. I want to commit to it fully, but those messages there from my partner." He hesitated, aware of the ripple his words might cause. "There's a lot happening with the company right now." Emily's expression tightened, shadows flitting across her face. "And you feel like you need to attend to that?" "Yes and no," he replied, grappling with the conflicting emotions. What we're doing, it's important too. I'm trying to balance everything. I thought maybe we could make this work together." Their eyes locked, the air thickening as he sensed the tension between aspiration and loyalty. Emily's fingers drummed lightly on the table, a signal of her impatience but also her desire for clarity. "Jake," she said slowly, "if this is going to work, you need to prioritize where your heart truly lies. You have to decide what matters most, this startup idea or climbing the corporate ladder for someone else's benefit. Her words struck him like lightning, illuminating the truth he had been evading. He had often perceived ambition as synonymous with progress, but now he questioned the validity of that notion. Was he pursuing dreams that would ultimately lead to isolation? He felt the creeping realization that his desire for success had often eclipsed his capacity for connection. But what if I can still do both? He proposed, desperation slipping into his tone. What if blending the two is the solution? Or the distraction? Emily countered, her gaze unwavering. Jake, I can't help if you're still chasing after everything that got us here, yet didn't he bring us happiness? The words landed heavily, forcing him to examine the implications of his choices. He had turned every late night into an emblem of diligence, yet at the core, he was losing sight of his own happiness. Faced with the choice between staying in his comfort zone of ambition or embracing vulnerability with Emily, he felt tethered by doubt. Could he truly let go of the relentless grind for recognition? Could his identity as a businessman survive a step back? The thought of choosing a personal endeavor over a professional victory terrified him, yet the longing to connect with Emily outweighed that fear, growing like an ember he feared might extinguish if he continued to neglect it. I know that running after my career hasn't contributed to the life we want, he confessed, his voice steadier now. I don't want to be that guy anymore. I want to be present, for you. For us. And that's the start, she replied softly, relief glimmering in her eyes. It has to begin there. Fully commit, or I can't do this. Suddenly, the air shifted. Jake felt a sense of clarity rushing in, dispelling the fog of doubt. Perhaps all along, the real goal wasn't about creating financial security but establishing an emotional foundation first. That was the opportunity he sought with Emily, to nurture both their visions into something that resonated beyond mere ambition. But a new weight settled in the pit of his stomach as he glanced once more at his phone, which buzzed incessantly with dizzying urgency, an unrelenting reminder of the corporate life that had once consumed him. Emily, what if this is my final shot to make things right? His voice dropped to a whisper as the stakes crystallized in his mind. What if I call them back? As the resolution hung in the air, Jake faced a stark choice. Would he step into the labyrinth of his professional ties or hold firm to the reinvigorated personal commitment he was breathing life into? The crossroads loomed, and he knew the next decision would mark a turning point. Would he plunge into business as he always did, or would he anchor himself to the gentle but firm heartbeat of a new path with Emily? The choice crackled in the atmosphere, as both promise and peril awaited. The need for action throbbed within him, and clarity beckoned. The moment for decision was upon him, and what lay beyond shifted just out of reach, teetering on the edge of possible redemption. Jake's heart raced as he weighed the implications of his choice. He could feel the palpable tension hanging in the air, the flickering lights and muted hum of the cafe fading into the background. The urgency in his phone's relentless buzzing paled in comparison to the gravity of what lay before him, a fork in the road where ambition and emotional connection tore at each other with equal ferocity. He took a deep breath, forcing his mind to quiet the noise. I need to think this through, he said, trying to ground himself in the moment. But the truth was, the clarity he had felt moments ago was now skewering him with uncertainty. Was the corporate world ready to let him walk away? The entrepreneurial ambitions he harbored could align with his heart, but could he leave behind a life that had defined him for so long? Emily, attuned to his every flicker of emotion, leaned closer, her gaze unwavering. You know what you want, Jake. All you have to do is choose it. This isn't just about your career, it's about us. How many more chances do you think you'll get to start over? Her words ignited something within him. The fear of losing what they could build far outweighed the dread of stepping into the unknown. He could either answer the call that promised security, a life laid out before him with predictable paths, or he could dive into the ambiguous depths with Emily and risk everything. The glimmer of love intertwined with uncertainty beckoned, a path laced with potential. I want to choose us, he finally admitted, feeling open and exposed. The moment of vulnerability circled him, as invigorating as it was terrifying. But am I built to take that leap? What if I fail? Failure is part of growth, she said gently. If you don't try, you never know. The only true failure is not doing anything at all. Her faith in him acted as a buoy, lifting him out of doubt. What was it he truly feared, a failed venture, or the potential of a life lived without true emotional investment? It became increasingly clear that a prosperous future wasn't solely defined by monetary gains, but by the connections nurtured along the way. As Jake felt a swell of determination, he bravely turned his eyes to his phone, the screen glowing with notifications begging for attention. Resolutely, he silenced it, the decision feeling like a small rebellion against the life he was ready to leave behind. Let's put everything else aside for tonight, he said, feeling liberated. Let us focus on what we want to create together. We can build something without the noise of my past business. A soft smile spread across Emily's face, warming him from the inside. Now we're talking. Let us brainstorm ideas, possibilities. It's time for what we believe in. She leaned forward, her enthusiasm igniting a kindred spark in him. Ideas began flowing, ignited by a newfound synergy. They spent hours sketching out concepts and exchanging thoughts, the cafe around them fading until only their shared vision remained bright and clear. But Jake couldn't shake the remnants of his corporate life that still threaded through his mind. As exhilaration filled the space between them, another message buzzed on the screen, the same urgency from earlier, demanding acknowledgement. Would it ever truly fade? Then, unexpectedly, his heart dropped. What if this was all a distraction from the consequences of abandoning his responsibilities too quickly? What if the office hadn't given up on him yet? Jake? Emily's voice broke through the haze. You seem distant. Are you with me? He looked into her eyes, seeing the trust, the hope. The weight of unturned loyalty pressed against his chest, but now it belonged to a new foundation, not of isolation but discovery. I'm here, he replied, realizing the conversation needed to follow this thread of vision, but the legacy of his past tugged at him like an anchor. The heavy burdens hadn't disappeared, yet the promise of a future hung over them like a ripe fruit waiting to be harvested. Just outside their cocoon of ideas, conflict simmered. Let us take the leap together, Emily suggested. And Jake found himself nodding but hesitating. Surely, he couldn't just sever ties without a plan. The stakes had never felt higher, revealing the reality that each choice held a weight, every direction a risk. As they ventured deeper into their dream, Jake felt the tension crescendo within him, poised on the brink of an irrevocable moment that would rewrite everything. Would he finally have the conviction to pivot into the unknown, not just for himself, but for Emily as well? Or would the call of responsibility usher him back into the confines of a familiar but suffocating life? The time had come to face his invisible chains and the weighty truth behind the glowing screen. Jake sat in the cafe, the enthusiasm he had felt moments ago now tinged with uncertainty. His palms were clammy against the table, and he struggled to quell the doubts swirling in his mind. The playful sketches they had created together felt like vibrant dreams posed against a backdrop of destructive anxiety. Could he really step away from the corporate world, his identity, without creating chaos in the delicate balance of his life? Emily's presence grounded him, but the reality of unfulfilled obligations gnawed at his insides. He could see the flicker of hope in her eyes as she waited for him to fully embrace the ideas they had been brainstorming. Yet, with every passing moment, the memories of late nights spent at the office flooded in, the weight of deadlines and targets felt heavy. I want to take the leap, Emily. I do, he finally said, searching for conviction in his own voice. But what if this doesn't go the way we want? What if I can't make it work? Jake, she said softly, her gaze unwavering, what's more important? Fear of failure or the possibility of success? We can't let doubt dictate our lives. I believe in us. Her words ignited a small flame of determination within him, but he still felt unworthy of that belief. It felt risky, like a gamble that could irrevocably alter both their futures. The glow of his phone tempted him, the persistent notifications becoming a siren call to his old life. With a deliberate motion, Jake pushed the device farther across the table, as if that gesture could also push away the part of him that felt tethered to obligation. "Can we honestly do this?" he asked, pulling back slightly. "Can I really start something new?" "You can, and you need to try," Emily urged, leaning into his words. "You have skills, vision, and passion that go far beyond what they recognize in a boardroom. This is your chance to lead in a way that aligns with who you are." Jake took a breath, evaluating her belief in his potential. Digging deeper, he challenged himself to confront the latent abilities he rarely tapped into. He envisioned the moments he thrived creatively, the small features his past roles neglected to see within him, but then doubt crept in again. But what was hidden within him? There had to be a spark buried deep under the desk clutter of business reports and quarterly projections. What if the pursuit of financial gain obscured the real vision he had for a life rooted in authenticity? The reality started to shift as awareness seeped through. Each crazy idea he and Emily explored was a reflection of the entrepreneur he had long buried beneath the weight of his corporate role. The designs they sketched weren't just whimsical aspirations. They were fragments of who he was, a blueprint for a more fulfilling journey. As clarity washed over him, Jake felt his pulse quicken further, beginning to replace fear with exhilaration. Stepping into entrepreneurship could mean strides towards becoming the man Emily saw in him: an entrepreneur, a leader, a partner. But doubt still lingered like shadows in the corners. What if his past actually held lessons that would trigger future success? Now, the urgency of the notifications leaking into their sacred brainstorming session morphed into considerations of strategic planning. What could he learn from his corporate days that might shape their new endeavor? "Let us outline a strategy," Jake said, his voice steadier now, ignited by resolve. "We need a plan, our own blueprint. Let us start building it tonight, from all angles. I need to wrap my head around this new journey." Emily's eyes gleamed with pride. "Absolutely. Think about your past experiences. They might just become our greatest asset. You have a world of knowledge that can be repurposed." Her encouragement fueled him, turning uncertainty into clarity. As they began sketching out ideas anew, Jake sensed that with each passing moment, he was disentangling himself from the chains that bound him. But just as he felt momentum surge, a new wave of anxiety flooded back, the call of his past life, the responsibilities he had yet to face formally. What were the right steps to sever ties without repercussions? The fear of losing stability lingered in the edges of his mind, teasing him. "I know I have to do this, Emily," he said, a bead of sweat forming on his brow. "But what if my old life comes back to haunt me? What if they don't let me go so easily?" Jake didn't know it yet, but this dilemma would soon become a much larger conflict, a test of will that could either solidify his resolve or unravel everything he and Emily intended to build. The flickering lights of the cafe seemed to dim once more as his decisions crystallized ahead of him. His past was relentless, but now he faced it not just with fear but with the potential for transformation. Could he truly reinvent himself, or were the shackles of his past too deeply entrenched? As the night wore on, the tension of what would come loomed ominously before him, leaving Jake teetering at the edge of a revelation. Would he plunge forward and embrace the unknown, or would the weight of responsibility pull him back into a life he'd fought hard to escape? In the days that followed, Jake's unease morphed into an obsessive determination. Each morning began with him sketching fresh concepts at his kitchen table, fueled by a blend of caffeine and the adrenaline of ambition. As he pored over possibilities, it became increasingly evident that these drawings encapsulated not just products, but his own evolving identity. The stark lines of his previous corporate life began to blur, giving way to a vibrant palette of entrepreneurial spirit. Yet, even as he designed, the same gnawing hesitation lingered. Emily frequently joined him, her energy buoying his resolve. They spent hours brainstorming, shifting through ideas that could shape their company, a company that represented everything Jake felt was missing from his past life. She supplied the artistic vision, while Jake imbued practicality into their plans. Together they were crafting not just a business, but also a safe haven for their creative passions that had long been stifled. One evening, as they spread their ideas before them like a feast, a notification jolted Jake back to reality. A message from his old employer. The same warm familiarity he once found in those digital pings now felt more like a trap. He hesitated, his heart racing. What if they were circling back to make an offer he couldn't refuse? A part of him yearned for the financial security they provided, a safety net for this risky endeavor. "Are you going to answer that?" Emily inquired, her brow furrowing slightly as she noticed his tense posture. "No," he said abruptly, the word tumbling out with unexpected finality. Each letter was a small victory against the creeping self-doubt that haunted him. No more distractions. He let the notification slip into oblivion, but its influence lingered, a decision made yet uncertain. As the evenings turned into an exhausting blur of brainstorming sessions and late-night revelations, Jake began to realize how his old professional persona still loomed in the wings. He knew that he would eventually have to confront his former employer. Meetings were looming and projects left unfinished. He felt the weight of lingering commitments gravitationally pulling him back, a voice in his mind reminding him, "You can't just walk away." But another voice added, "You don't belong there anymore." Sitting across from Emily one night, he expressed his concerns. "How do I sever ties without creating havoc in my life? What if I lose everything I've worked for?" "Sometimes, Jake, you need to burn the bridges to discover new paths," she replied gently, her words igniting a spark somewhere deep within him. "It doesn't have to be confrontational, just be honest about your intentions. A firm stand may lead to unexpected respect." As her words settled in, Jake grappled with the implications. The idea of transparency and honesty resonated deeply, but could he withstand the repercussions? The concept felt liberating and terrifying all at once. The next day, he found himself at his desk in the corporate office, sitting in an uncomfortable silence as he stared at the screen. Each tick of the clock echoed his growing trepidation. What if he chose to present them with his plans, his desires for a fresh start? Could it really be that simple? With every breath, the resolve within him coalesced. He drafted an email, each word an exercise in courage. "I'm grateful for the opportunities, but I need to pursue a new path." He hesitated before hitting send. Would that decision sever the chains completely, or would it merely rattle the cage? The ramifications felt immense. Just as he was about to click the send button, he received another notification. This one was from Emily. She had added a motivational quote to their shared document, "Courage isn't the absence of fear, but the triumph over it." In his gut, he could feel the stirrings of a pivotal moment. This could be the threshold between his past and present. Tremors of anticipation quivered in him as though the path was unfolding one decision at a time. In a bold burst of clarity, he clicked send. A mixture of fear and liberation coursed through him. But as the email vanished into cyberspace, Jake's heart raced with uncertainty. What would their response be? Would they attempt to twist his arm back into their world? Could he truly stand firm against the tide of expectations threatening to drown him? As anxiety intermingled with exhilaration, Jake felt one certainty: they were no longer mere sketches on a page. They were intentions transforming rapidly, pulling him into an exciting yet treacherous future he had long shied away from. As the clock ticked down and his pulse steadied, he thought of Emily's unwavering support and the dreams they were daring to manifest. But as his mind settled, a new thought crept in. Would he need to face someone who might not easily accept his departure? As he contemplated this, the horizon appeared dark and choppy. The moment was unfolding, yet another confrontation loomed ahead, one that could change everything. He steeled himself for what lay ahead, an encounter that would test his very resolve to leave it all behind. The dull glow of his computer screen flickered like a lifeline in the dimly lit office. The email was sent, yet Jake felt hardly any relief. The notification bubble on his phone began to glow ominously, suggesting his former employer had already responded. He glanced at it like it held all the answers, a portal to a future he had not yet embraced. With trembling hands, he opened the email. His heart sank as he read the terse response, a request for a meeting. He could almost feel the breath of the corporate world, suffocating yet enticing, beckoning him back. Memories of pressure-filled meetings, where every moment felt like a performance, rushed back. That was the life he was trying to escape. Jake stood up, pacing around the small room, every step a battle against temptation. It would be so easy to agree, to slip back into familiar habits. But this new life he envisioned, the world they were building with Emily, demanded his presence and his passion. He breathed deeply, trying to focus. "Are you okay?" Emily's voice broke through the haze of uncertainty. She had walked in quietly, her gentle presence always seemed to dissolve Jake's fleeting chaos. "I need to make a choice," he replied, the weight of his words apparent. He filled her in on the response from his old company, watching her brow furrow with concern. "Jake, don't feel obligated," she urged. "You owe them nothing. You're creating something new." "Right," he said, swallowing hard. "But I worked hard to get where I was. Leaving, it feels like I'm just throwing away years of effort. And staying would mean living a life that doesn't fulfill you," Emily said, her words firm yet kind. "This is time to choose between comfort and growth." Each assertion resonated inside of him, yet fears danced mischievously at the edges of his thoughts. What did he stand to lose versus what he could gain? Confidence and doubt waged a quiet war in his mind. He had loved the thrill of creativity, but the risk associated with it felt daunting. After a moment of silence, he responded, "I'll meet with them. But on my terms." Emily stepped closer, a hint of a smile breaking through her concern. "And what are those terms?" "I'll agree to this meeting, but I want it to be clear that I'm not coming back. I need to communicate my commitment to this new venture." The finality of his statement surprised him. He had put himself on the line, daring to be unapologetic. Jake felt as if he had taken the first true step in a long time, forging his path in the world on his own terms. They spent the evening drafting potential talking points, a roadmap through the choppy waters he was about to navigate. But as excitement simmered, doubt slipped back in, whispering warnings. Would they respect his decisions? Would they try to lure him back with promises hanging like good bait on a line? The next day, anxiety curled in his stomach as he approached the office, feeling like an uninvited guest in a house where he used to feel secure. The walls somehow seemed taller, the fluorescent lights blinding. He took a deep breath, recalling Emily's words, the need to burn bridges. Confrontation was never comfortable for Jake, but this moment felt pivotal, as though it would define a significant part of his journey. Walking into the conference room, he surveyed the room and spotted familiar faces. He felt vulnerable surrounded by people who had known him as the dutiful employee, yet today, he was presenting himself as something more, his own concoction of courage and aspiration. As the meeting progressed, Jake felt the familiar rhythm of corporate chat, but he stayed anchored in his purpose. And when it was his turn to speak, he met their gaze with steady confidence, outlining his intentions with clarity. "I'm grateful for what I learned here, but my focus has shifted. I'm moving forward, not backward. It's time for me to embrace new challenges." For a moment, silence filled the air, then came the responses. Some were supportive, others apprehensive, but each word chipped away at the lingering comfort Jake had once felt there. As the discussion waned, he sensed a shift, not just in their reactions but within himself. This was not merely a conclusion, it was the opening of a door he had barely allowed himself to imagine. Yet, just as the meeting wrapped up, a voice he hadn't heard for years echoed within him, a senior manager among the old guard, his expression a blend of confusion and concern. "Jake, Have you considered the implications of leaving? What if it's a mistake? Jake's heart raced. This was the confrontation he didn't see coming. As he prepared to respond, he held on to the faint hope that stood behind him, a leap toward a destiny he was yet to fully define. Would this weight of doubt shackle him, or could he forge ahead, through all the noise, toward an unknown future? He took a breath, steeling himself. I've made my choice. Now it's time for you to respect it. How the others would react, what they would do next, remained unknown. Would they embrace his shift, or would his decision ignite resistance? The next move would set the course, and for once, Jake felt a flicker of anticipation ignite within the heaviness of the moment, one filled with possibility, free from chains of the past that had threatened to drag him back. Days turned into weeks, and Jake's resolve solidified with each passing moment. He embraced the challenge of entrepreneurship, developing the app alongside Emily that had become the embodiment of their shared vision. The combination of their talents created an undeniable synergy, transforming ideas into tangible forms. No longer was he the isolated titan of Silicon Valley, he had become a partner, a collaborator, and most importantly, a husband. Each late-night brainstorming session redefined their relationship, strengthening the bond they had once allowed to fray. With every feature they designed, Jake poured his heart into their creation, capturing moments meant to be shared not just as the detached provider he had been, but as an engaged father-to-be. He was building more than an app, he was weaving together a legacy that prioritized love and family over mere ambition. As the launch date approached, excitement coursed through him, yet nagging doubt still flickered at the corners of his mind. Memories of his old life haunted him, conversations about corporate conflicts and pressures that felt foreign yet strangely comforting. However, those burdens began to fade as the couple celebrated milestones in their project and their relationship. They created a space where vulnerability thrived, where their personal and professional dreams became intertwined. At last, the day of the app launch arrived. The energy was electric. Jake stood beside Emily, who beamed with pride as they presented their work to a small gathering of family and friends. It wasn't just about the app, it was a testament to their journey, a publicly declared commitment to one another. During his speech, Jake found his footing. This app represents not just the work we've accomplished, but it embodies our growth together. I've learned that ambition is hollow without connection. The day I chose our family over my corporate success was the day I truly began to build a legacy. As he spoke, he could see the light in Emily's eyes. His reflections resonated with authenticity, and he felt a wave of validation that came from fulfilling not just professional aspirations but opening his heart. The applause that followed was not for the app alone, it was recognition of the personal growth that had led him here, reinforced by the strength of their partnership. In the weeks that followed, the app garnered attention. They received endorsements from parenting influencers and positive reviews from early users. Each piece of feedback reaffirmed their decision to embrace a new path, one laden with challenges but rich with rewards. The pinnacle moment came when they learned the app was selected for an award recognizing innovative family-focused technology. They were invited to present not only the app but their story, a tale of personal transformation sparked by the love and commitment to building a life together. Jake took to the stage with his heart racing, infused with confidence rather than anxiety. As he spoke of their journey from the tension of neglected calls to the vibrant collaboration over a shared vision, he saw faces in the crowd nodding along to the rhythm of his truth. In that moment, he watched Emily stand beside him, radiating strength and support, and a genuine smile crept over his face, solidly affirming their choice. As they walked off the stage, Jake knew he was finally in a position he had always longed for, proud of who he had become and what they had accomplished together on this extraordinary journey. Jake had achieved more than professional recognition, he had conquered his internal struggle between ambition and connection. He had transformed from a man shackled by the corporate grind into a devoted husband and partner, confident, fulfilled, and ready to embrace the challenges ahead. His professional trajectory had shifted, but alongside it, he had cultivated an irreplaceable personal life that transcended material ambitions. He was no longer the man who chose work over love, he was now the man who successfully intertwined passion with presence, leading with purpose. The future loomed before him, replete with promise as he held on to the certainty that true success is not measured solely by accolades, but through love, connection, and shared dreams. At this moment, Jake felt liberated, freed from the chains of solitude that had once governed his choices. For those seeking to transform their lives, remember this: you must define your legacy on your terms, choosing connection over ambition when faced with such crucial crossroads. And if you found inspiration in Jake's journey, you need to subscribe now to catch even more exclusive emotional stories that ignite the spirit. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help us reach more hearts eager for transformation. Comment below your reactions and theories about the ending. Did it resonate with your journey? Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Together, let us weave a narrative of personal achievement and connection.